Hi there guys, I thought today on a nice beautiful sunny day here in the wilds of Hunter's Key, in fact I'm at home in my back garden, I thought I'd share with you some of the kit I take when I'm on a 3-season hike and some of the options I've got. So I hope you'll find it interesting. So first of all, let's take a look at my sleep system. The sleep system, as far as I'm concerned, is the most important part of backpacking to make sure you get a nice warm and cozy night and you're ready for the next day of hiking. For my sleeping bag, I use a Rab Neutrino for 3 seasons. It's certainly more than adequate. I've also used this in winter as well, so it's nice and warm and toasty. As with many sleeping bags, it has a hood and a baffle to make sure it ties up close to your neck and keeps the warmth in. And I've had this for a number of years and it's been holding up really well. For storage within the backpack, I use an oversized dry sack rather than the standard squish bags that come with sleeping bags. That way I find it easier to pack. You can put it at the base of the backpack and squish it into all the nooks and crannies to make maximum use of the available space rather than waste any space. And that really works well. And the dry bag obviously is to keep the sleeping bag nice and dry. Underneath that, for a mattress, I use a Therm-a-rest NeoAir. This is actually a slightly wide version because I don't like rolling off the sides. That keeps me off the ground, which is where you lose most of your heat. And then as my preferred sleeping system comes shelter, I use a Bivvy bag. This one is the Alpkit Hunka extra large. It gives me plenty of room to wriggle around in, get some of my kit in if I need to. And in normal conditions, I actually put the mattress inside the Bivvy bag. That way I stop sliding off the mattress. Unfortunately, with the extra wide NeoAir here, it's difficult to tighten up the Bivvy bag so that you're fully protected from the elements. And if it's a bad night, then what I'll do is I'll put the mattress outside and snuggle up on top of it. For added protection, I might use a tarp as well. I use the Rab Siltarp one. That's very useful not only for sleeping under when it's rather wet conditions, but it serves as an emergency shelter as well. And recently I have actually used it in a emergency to protect my wife who had an accident on the hill, and we needed to get her warm and keep her out of the wind and the bad weather. So that serves a dual purpose, which is always my motto, is if you're carrying stuff, can you use it in more than one way. Of course, with the tarp, I need pegs and guys. So I've got a set of pegs here in a little bag. These are tungsten and very light and very sturdy. I also made guys from Dyneema cord, I think that's 2mm cord, and little guy locks on them. 2 walking poles here, Faisan walking poles, lightweight. These double as poles for the tarp, so you can make a tarp into several configurations using these along with guy ropes to hold the tarp up. So again, dual usage. And then for moist ground, maybe extra warmth, I've also got a ground sheet. This is a gear top ground sheet which stuffs in a small sack like this. So all of this is my sleep system and shelter. Normally I'll sleep under the stars. In Scotland that's a bit difficult sometimes, as you can appreciate, so the tarp does provide some coverage. If we start to get into the winter months, then I will turn to my tent as my primary shelter. This is good old faithful here, Hilleberg Acto. I've had it 15 years now, maybe longer. A couple of rips in it, but yeah, that's really a secure base, especially up high. Also I have, as part of my sleep system, is clothing, nighttime clothing. So I've got this compact puffer jacket. This is Montbell. So you can get that on, wear it at night time. And it's also fashionable enough to go down to a local nightclub if one's available. So again, dual usage. Also, never go to bed with wet feet. I keep a dry pair of socks, which I change into at night after drying my feet. And these keep me toasty in the sleeping bag. And depending on how cold it is, a pair of gloves for wearing at night time, and a beanie hat that snugly fits. This is a Thinsulate one. Snugly fits to keep your head warm during the night as well. So those are some added components of the sleep system. Just incidentally, I also carry a bag full of spares. There's a repair kit for the Therm-a-rest, and then other miscellaneous items such as bungee cord. I've got paracord in here as well, 10 meters of it. So I can also use that if there's some convenient trees to run a ridgeline for the tarp, which gives me added options. So let's turn now to some of the emergency equipment I carry. I think closely linked to emergency equipment is comms equipment and navigation gear as well. It's important to be prepared for unexpected events. Always when walking alone, I do a lot of solo walks in the mountains. I need to be prepared just in case I take a trip or a fall. So I carry a pretty comprehensive first aid kit. This is an X-bed bag. I won't empty the kit just now, but it carries all the usual things you would expect, like antiseptic cream, plasters, bandages, headache tablets. I've even got tick removers in there for those beasties, and various other items. For emergencies, well, I'm carrying my Siltarp, as I showed you earlier. I also carry a Rab emergency Bivvy, and it packs up really small. It's pretty thin, but it has a foil inlay within it, so it does keep you warm. And separately from that, this is a thermal blanket, a foil thermal blanket. So between those, you can keep out of the wind and keep warm should you need to. I mentioned earlier that I have had cause to use this just recently, about 2 weeks ago, when we were up north in Ascent, and my wife had to be rescued, in fact, airlifted to Rab Hospital in Inverness. So while we were waiting on the mountain rescue team, we made it comfortable using this gear. So I always carry it with me, even on the shortest little walks, because you never know when you'll take a fall. Another useful and essential piece of kit nowadays for me is a satellite communicator. This is the Zoleo satellite communicator. I don't know if you can see it there. Worth its weight in gold as far as I'm concerned. It allows you to communicate regardless of whether there's a phone signal or not. So it works alongside, well, it can work on its own to a certain extent, but it works alongside an app which you can have on your phone, so that you can keep in touch with folk back home to let them know where you are and that you're okay. And then in the event of an emergency, like the other week, you can actually press the SOS button, and that will activate a global response team who are based in the US. And in turn, for the UK, they will contact HM Coastguard, and in turn, they will contact local services like the police and mountain rescue. And I guarantee you it does work, because I used this just under 2 weeks ago, and sure enough, after a short wait, the mountain rescue and the Coast Guard helicopter turned up. So I will not go anywhere without those. Now, if you're using powered devices like this, this is rechargeable battery from USB. The phone is obviously rechargeable. Then you need to carry battery packs. This is a Charmas battery pack. I think you can get around 7 or 8 charges of your phone from one charge of this. I at least carry one. I may carry 2 on a longer trip. And with other electrical devices as well, then they're going to need recharging. For example, my watch here, which is a Garmin watch. This gives me my coordinates exactly, but it is charging every 2 weeks or so, depending on usage. I also use this to track my route as well for later analysis. So a charger battery pack is essential. It goes without saying you need manual backup, so always carry a compass and the map of the area. This one happens to be Ascent, and know how to use it. In fact, primarily I use map and compass, and I use my phone. I've got a map system, OMM map system on my phone. I use that as a backup, and I can get a precise location with my watch. So I don't just depend on one. I primarily use a map and compass, but I make sure I work between all of them so that I'm confident with all of them all of the time. I guess related to emergency, but certainly if you get caught in the dark, you're going to need a decent head torch. This is the Pretzel Active Core rechargeable battery in there, so that's another reason I need to have a power pack. I carry a small little torch, just a Maglite torch, which I make sure it's easy at hand. So if it is dark and I need to rummage around to find my head torch, at least I've got a light that I can use to find it, and it's good to have a backup light. And in fact, I have a spare head torch here and spare batteries as well. So I'm pretty well covered. Standard things like a whistle for attracting attention, Other things, well, if you've got devices that need charging, you need to make sure you're carrying the various cables you need. And I keep those tucked away in a little waterproof pouch here. And another useful tip is to make sure you label them so you know which one fits which device. There's nothing worse having to go through all of your cables just to find the cable that's right for the particular device you're trying to charge. Notebook and pen. This is a waterproof Write in the Rain notebook, and this is also from Write in the Rain. It's a pen that writes in any direction, upside down, in the wet. Useful if, for example, you contact emergency services, you need to be prepared for the call, so you need to write down a few notes of your location, other details that will help the emergency services. And then any sort of notes you want to take along the way. Maybe you're going to write up something after the trip and you just want to have a few notes to remind yourself about certain events that happened. So I carry that. At my age, I wear glasses. I can't see anything unless I'm wearing glasses. And of course, I'm always losing glasses. So another thing I do is I carry this little credit card size magnifying glass, plastic magnifying glass. So if worst comes to the worst, I can use this at least to read a map or read my phone or whatever I need to do. Water filter. This is a life straw. So if you're getting short on water and you need to drink from a stream or a puddle, then you can use this. I do have other filtration equipment with me and a water bottle, but I consider this as part of my emergency gear. Maybe we're stretching it a bit, but navigation, I guess this counts as, is a monocular. So if you want to see in the distance and whether there's typically like a deer fence running in the direction that you're trying to get through, at least you can view it from afar and make alternative arrangements to get round it if you need to. Or if you're just watching the wildlife, it's useful as well. I find this easier to carry than binoculars. It's a bit lighter. Up in the hills in Scotland, and especially the windier heights, take the Cairngorms for example, the weather can change in an instant. You could be halfway up and the wind picks up. And there's certain limits to amount of wind before it starts to get a bit dodgy. So I've got this Kestrel wind meter, also takes the temperature as well. So if you start to get up to 30-40 miles an hour on the lower slopes, you know you need to stay off the higher slopes. Finally, a little pen knife here. I don't know, for slicing stuff. It's not the most sturdiest. Well, it's not too bad. This is a Whitby knife, and it's useful just to put in your pack, even if you want to slice some chorizo or something. I use this pouch on the front of my backpack. I hang it from the front to store a lot of this stuff for easy access. Combine that with my pockets in my trousers. I've got plenty of pockets. So, for example, the map fits nicely in the map pocket here. These are Fjallraven G1000 shorts. Forgotten the actual model of them. I think that the longer trouser version is Vida Pro. I like them because the pockets are all in the same place on all my sets of trousers. I'm that boring and I know where everything is. So that's emergency gear and navigation gear and my electronics and comms gear. So that works pretty well, I find. Right, let's move on and look at cooking equipment, the outdoor kitchen. Obviously you need to eat as well at some point on a trip. I've used a variety of stoves in my time. Ones with canisters. I've used ones that run on kerosene, which are a bit messy. But my current favourite system is to use a mess burner. So here is basically the core of my cooking system. I made this pot cozy. I followed another video on YouTube on how to make this. You just buy sheets of material and use gaffer tape to put it together. And it's useful because it keeps the pot warm once you've boiled some water or you want to simmer some pasta. So it's pretty useful to have, and it also helps keep the container together. This is a titanium pot. It's an ever new 900 milliliter pot, and inside I've got a dishcloth just to give things a wipe down, and then my mess burner. And this comes from Trail Designs in the States. It's essentially a foil that you put around the burner, and they're made for a specific size of pot. So mine was specifically for the Avenue pot that sits in the top. Obviously you need to carry the fuel with you as well, so I carry it in a safety container here. That's 500 ml, that's more than enough to last a week. I have a titanium mug which comes from another set, and my water container is a Nalgene 1 litre water container. So when I'm putting this in my backpack, I just snuggle that in there, so you're saving room, not wasting any space. When I'm cooking, I use a soldering mat I bought, I guess, off Amazon, just to lay on the ground to protect the ground, so that in case there's any scalding, the mat will take it, and obviously want to leave no trace. I use a long spoon, sometimes known as a racing spoon if you've been in the forces, and that's useful if you're buying these dehydrated packs of food and you're eating direct from the pack. You've got a long spoon to get to the bottom of it. Got a flat pack here which has got some foldable cups in it, and a foldable plate and various other items. Here, if you're having a bowl of pasta or some cereal, that folds up nicely. And then a beaker. Also, I carry a pack here, small waterproof pack full of ignition equipment, so to speak. So if I had to start a fire, like if you're on a beach, for example, and you just fancied a fire that's out of harm's way, then kindling, I can use cotton wool with a wipe of Vaseline to get the fire started. I've got fireproof matches here, a fire stick, and well, I also use a windproof lighter as well. This is a Soto windproof lighter. It extends, and that's useful for lighting the mess burner because you can keep a distance. So I keep all that in a kit together. Luxury items. This is a plastic bottle, quite sturdy, and I'll fill that up full of whiskey before going away on a trip, so that I can have a nightcap just to finish off the day nicely, watching the sunset and watching the world go by. The other luxury item, which is to do with the kitchen as well as camp in general, and I've just been converted to these, is a little chair. This is a Helinox chair. There's various models of this. This is the one, I think it's called Zero. It sits close to the floor and it packs up really nicely. It's not too heavy and it's very quick to assemble. It's all sprung loaded. So there's the frame, and you can see that, and you just put the cover on. There's a certain way up, this side up, and you just slip that over the top like so, and like so. It's a bit fiddly sometimes. There we go. And then you have a nice little chair, and I tell you, on long days, this makes all the difference in the world. Now, you'll notice I've sunk in, and that's where an extra item comes in. You can buy a stabilizer for it. It's just a fold up rectangle, and you slide that onto the feet like so. Bit fiddly again. It's got useful pull straps here, and that stops it sinking into the ground. So there we go. Now this makes all the difference in the world, because I hate sitting on the floor with a bent back. Here you've got a nice back like this, and you can just watch the world go by. It's bliss. The other thing I found with it, and sometimes I think I'm a bit clever, is that it's useful when you're lying in bed as well, because if you tilt it up this way, yeah, and imagine I've laid out my sleeping bag and my bivvy bag here, then you're lying in bed and you can sit there and you can read a book or whatever you want to do, and it's so comfortable. So people might laugh at you carrying a chair. Believe me, you won't regret it. And I make sure it's easily accessible in the backpack, so if I'm stopping for lunch, I can quickly take it out, set it up, and just have a break. And yeah, recommended. We were talking about the cooking system earlier. Well, closely related to that, of course, is food. So I use dry bags to store food in. Depending how long I'm going for determines how many bags I need. Typical things I pack, well, for evening meal, I tend to go for things like pasta in sauce. These are bachelor's ones. I think at the supermarket you can get these for about £1. You can go for the dehydrated meals that are more exotic, more expensive, but I find these are perfectly adequate. I also tend to snack a lot, so I'll carry trail mix, the essential jelly babies, tea and coffee pouches, soup pouches, and maybe a small block of cheese, some chorizo, depending really how long I'm going to be out. Tend to carry a maximum of 3 days food and then resupply after that. So that's food. I mentioned earlier about water filtration. If you need to set up camp, you need to find a water source, and I'll then fill up either the standard platypus bottle, which is 2 litres. If the water source is looking a bit dodgy, then I'll filter it. So I'll use this platypus 1 litre bladder for dirty water. It says dirty here. And then use this platypus filter. It's called Quick Draw, and it has a clean end that you drink through, a dirty end that you remove this cap, screw it on, and then you squeeze the water through to either directly drink it or squeeze it into a clean bottle. Hygiene, if you need to go, well, you've got toilet roll in a Ziploc bag to keep it dry. I've got spare Ziploc bags to carry out waste if necessary, and the obligatory pack trowel dig a hole and bury what I need to bury. On the subject of leaving no trace, I carry some rubbish bags. These are bin liners to carry out any trash. For camp, especially at night, midge protection, so I've got some spray. This is deep freeze midge spray, and in a protective bag here I've got my midge net. Spare clothing, well, apart from what I'm wearing, I'll take some extra layers in case it gets a bit cold. So I've got equivalent of a fleecy here. This is one of my favourite pieces of kit. It's a Montane smock, which is windproof and slightly waterproof. So quite often I'll just wear my base layer and this while I'm walking, and I'm more than warm enough and windproof enough without having to resort to heavier layers. Gloves, essential. So if it's really cold, I'll take my big winter gloves, skiing gloves. Some other gloves here, these are Montane ones, they're a bit lighter. I've got some inner gloves as well. I tend to feel the cold more nowadays, so I like to keep dry and warm. And if it's really pouring down, then this is Montane again. This is over mitts, which are totally waterproof. You just put them over all your gloves and it'll keep them dry. So that's all in a dry bag. Keep that towards the top of my pack for easy access during the day if I need it. And then finally, last set of layers is my waterproofs. So there's my jacket, one of my jackets. This is a Alpkit jacket. I love this jacket, it's really nice. Does the job. And a pair of Gore-Tex waterproof trousers. These are, I think, Berghaus. Zip all the way down so you can get them easily on and off without taking the footwear off. And that'll keep you dry, so that's good. So that's it from what's been a sunny day in Hunter's Key. So thank you for watching, and if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. And yeah, thanks again. Make sure you stay safe out on those hills. Bye for now.